Welcome to Mindful Leadership, Transforming Lives, with your host, Singh. This is where leadership meets purpose, presence, and passion. In today's fast paced, high pressure world, we face a leadership crisis. Too often, teams are led by managers who lack empathy, clarity, and vision, leaving individuals uninspired, disconnected, and undervalued. But it doesn't have to be this way. Great leadership isn't born, it's built. The end game: empower your leadership, inspire the world. Every week, join me, your host Singh, as we tackle the gaps in leadership and life coaching head on, learning how mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and compassion can redefine success. This isn't just another podcast, it's a mission to fill the void left by ineffective leadership. And it's not just about leadership in business. Life coaching for leaders and new executives is at heart of this journey. Ready to rise above the noise and lead with clarity, purpose, and impact? Join a global movement dedicated to reshaping the future of leadership one mindful moment at a time. Let's begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Leadership Podcast on Transformation Network, the podcast where we turn stress into strategy, overthinking into clarity, and overwhelm into momentum. I'm your host, Singh, the leadership coach who knows that growth does not happen through burnout, it happens through alignment. So let's begin. Okay, let's picture this with me. It's Tuesday morning. You open your laptop, and before you had a sip of coffee, before your brain has even agreed to be a brain yet, your screen is already yelling at you. Dashboard number one says engagement is down 4%. Dashboard number two says engagement is up 6%, but only on Tuesdays and only among users whose names start with a vowel. I am just exaggerating, but only a little. Your inbox has 1,700 threads, three of them marked urgent by people who always marked last Thursday's lunch order as urgent. Slack is blinking. Somebody in the channel you forgot you joined is asking thoughts with a link to a 43-page report. And somewhere in all that noise, there is a decision waiting for you, a real one, a decision that will shape your team, your quarter, and maybe your year. Now, tell me something honestly. When you finally sit down to make that decision, are you leading from clarity? Or are you leading from whichever dashboard streamed loudest? That is what we are unpacking today. Because this is the start of a brand new set. And over the next several weeks, I'm going to walk you through 21 simple frameworks for what I call mindful analytics. Leadership in the age of more data than judgment, more inputs than insight, more information than wisdom. And we are starting with the one framework I come back to more than any other, and I call it focus. Well, the five letter, five steps, and a promise. The promise to stay focused, moving from data to decision, lead with clarity and purpose. So let's get to it. So here is the uncomfortable truth about modern leadership. We don't have a data problem. We don't have a data problem. We have a discernment problem. 20 years ago, the leader who had the most information usually made the best decision. Information was scarce. Whoever could get their hands on it had the edge. Today, information is a fire hose. Every tool, every platform, every integration is screaming numbers at you. And the leader who tries to absorb all of it, weigh all of it, respond to all of it, and leader isn't making better decisions. That leader is making faster decision with thinner layer of thought behind each one, wearing a simple smile that is slowly curdling into agreements. I once coached a director, let's call her Priya, who ran analytics for mid-sized SaaS company, brilliant woman, could read spreadsheet the way most people read a novel. And she was exhausted, not tired, exhausted. The kind of tired that sleep does not fix. I asked her what was going on, and she said, Singh, I look at 47 dashboards a week and I'm making more decisions than I ever have, but I can't remember the last time I felt sure about what any of them. Let that settle. That's the tell. Not I don't have enough data. It is I have too much data and not enough direction. That's what focus is designed to fix. not to give you more information, to give you a process for turning information into decisions you can actually stand behind. So let's walk through it. The first one, find clarity. The first letter is to find clarity, right? And I put it first on purpose because if you skip this step, the rest of the framework can't save you. Now, finding clarity means one thing. Before you look at a single number, you stop yourself and ask, what decision am I actually trying to make? Not what does the data say, not what are the trends. What decision am I trying to make? And what would help make it well, right? What decision I'm trying to make and what would help me to make it well. And here's the practice: 2 to 3 minutes, phones down, dashboard closed, and breath. And breathe and write one sentence. The decision I am trying to make is. That's it. It sounds absurd in its simplicity, but it will change your week. Because most leaders, and I include myself here, skip this step. We open the dashboard first and let the data choose our questions for us. Guys, that's backwards. That's like walking into a library and asking the books what you should be curious about. I worked with a founder, let's call him Jamal, who was trying to decide whether to hire a second engineer. He had been sharing at hiring dashboards, churn reports, velocity charts, cost of delay models for weeks. Paralysis, could not move. We sat down. We sat down. I asked him the magic question, Jamal, what decision are you actually trying to make? And he paused and he said, I'm trying to decide whether I trust myself to lead someone new right now. Oh, see, that was not a hiding question. That was not a hiding question. That was a self trust question. And no hiring board on earth was going to answer it. The second he named, the second he named the real decision, the right data became obvious. He did not need more velocity charts. He needed an honest conversation with his executive coach and a look at his calendar, right? First, clarity, then data. Find the clarity first, then go find your data, never the other way around. Now, the second letter is observe bias. And this is one humbling. This one is humbling because it forces you to admit something most leaders don't love admitting. We don't see data. We see data filtered through us. See, our recent wins, our recent losses, the projects that's still making our stomach hurt, the colleagues we were quietly impressed by, the strategy we championed last quarter that we would really prefer to still be right about. And all of it is sitting between you and the numbers, behind the light. See, observing bias does not mean eliminating it. You can't. You're a human. The first sentence of code ever written has a bias, right? The goal is to notice this, to pause long enough that your biases stop driving the car. And here is a checklist I will give my clients, right? 4 questions. Run them through any significant decision, just 4 simple ones. First, am I favoring the data that confirms what I already believe? Am I favoring the data that confirms what I already believe? Two, am I overweighting the most recent event because it's emotionally loud? Right? The third one, who benefits if I interpret this data this way? And am I one of those people? And the fourth one, whose perspective is missing from this analysis? The last one is the one people skip, and it's usually the most important. I had another client VP, let's call her Nadia, who was absolutely convinced that her team's new onboarding flow was working. The numbers looked great, completion rates were up, time to first value was down, and she was ready to celebrate. And I asked her that question, the fourth question, whose perspective is missing? Long pause. And she said, we only measured the people who finished. We did not talk to the ones who dropped out in the first two steps. So she went back, interviewed 12 users who had abandoned the flow, and found a brutal truth. The onboarding was not better. It was just scaring away the users who had churned later, right? The numbers look good on the up, but the reality was flat. Her data was not lying, but her bias had decided what to measure and what not to. See, observe bias is the letter that saves you from celebrating wrong wins. Yeah. The third one, the third letter, and for me, the heart of framework, connect data to values. And here is where mindful leadership separates from ordinary leadership. Ordinary leadership asks, what does the data say we can do? Mindful leadership asks, what does the data say we can do and should we? See, every significant decision sits in three layers: the data layer, the strategy layer, and the underneath both of them, the quieter, more powerful, and often ignored, the value layer. The values are the why that anchor your what. See, values are the why that anchor your what. So when you have a data set in front of you, ask three things. Does this reflect what we actually prioritize as a team? Is the way I'm about to use the data consistent with how we say we treat our people and customers? And third, what are the second order consequences if I act on this? Now, that third question is the ethics question. And ignoring it is how organizations quietly drift into the kind of decisions you would be embarrassed to see on the front page of a newsletter. Let me give you another example. Product lead, let's call him Rohan, who had a data point that said sending three push notifications in a row right before bedtime boosted nightly engagement by 12%. That data was real. The lift was real. He could ship it tomorrow. And then we talked through. And he asked himself, if our stated value is we respect our users' attention, is interpreting them three times before sleep consistent with that value? And he did not ship it. That's connect data to values in action. The data said yes, the value said no. And mindful leadership knows the values get the final vote. Now, the next letter, the fourth letter is use insights mindfully. Now, this is about how you deliver what you have learned to your team, to your stakeholders, your board. Now, here's what most leaders get wrong: they treat data like a weapon. They walk into the room with a slide that says engagement down 4% in 72-point font and then wonder why everyone gets defensive and shut down. Data does not land because it is accurate. Data lands because it is delivered in a way human can actually receive. Right? So three principles for using insights mindfully. One, simplify the story. If you can't explain your finding in one sentence that a 12-year-old would understand, you don't understand it yet, and keep working. Second, balance logic with emotion. Don't just tell me number drop. Tell me what number means for humans behind it. Was there a policy change that frustrated users? Did a design update confuse new customers? Numbers without context are just homework. You know? Deliver with empathy and transparency. Now, if the news is hard, don't soften it into dishonesty, but don't weaponize it either. Present findings the way you would want findings presented to you on your worst Monday. I was sitting in a meeting once with a director, and he opened up. I want to talk about where we are failing short, and I want to do it in a way that helps us all get better, not in a way that makes anyone feel small. See, the room exhaled and the room got honest. And that is the you. That's the word it sounds like when insights are used mindfully. And now the fifth letter, sustain ethical action. Because here's the ugly secret about frameworks. Most leaders use them once, then they run one good analysis, make one good decision, and then go right back to reacting. Whatever framework they used gets buried under the next 17 notification. See, sustaining ethical action means the decision does not end the work, it begins the work, right? So, three practices to make focus stick beyond a single decision. Monitor impact. Now, what you decided, revisit it. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Did it actually produce the outcome you expected? Did anything unintended surface? And mindful leaders close that loop. Second, adapt and learn. If the data said one thing and reality said another, don't get defend the original decision. Don't get offended. Update it. Ego is not leadership strategy. And the third one, build the culture. The practices you demonstrate becomes the practices your team copies. If your team sees you pause, check for bias, and connect decision to values, they will start doing it too. If they see you react to every dashboard like it's on fire, well, guess what kind of team you are building? Sustainable ethical action is how focus stops being a framework and starts being a culture. All right. Pause the podcast if you need to. Grab a notebook or notes app. I want you to run through focus on one real decision sitting on your desk right now. Right? So take 3 minutes, just 3 minutes. Find clarity. Write one sentence. The real decision I'm trying to make, dot, 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 dot. Not the surface one, the real one. The real decision I'm trying to make is. Now, observe bias. Write down one bias you might be carrying into that decision. Be honest. Are you chasing a recent win? Are you avoiding a recent loss? Are you protecting a previous call you made? Or whatever it be, just write down one bias you might be carrying into the decision. Now, connect data to values. Write the single value this decision most clearly touches. And then ask, is what I'm about to do aligned with that value? The next step to use insights mindfully. How will you communicate this decision? In one sentence, what's the headline you would want your team to remember? And then sustain ethical action. Pick one checkpoint. 30 days from now, what will you look at to know whether the decision actually worked? That's it. 3 to 5 minutes, one decision, a better leader at end of it. Now, before we move forward, two quick traps I see leaders fall into with the framework. Pitfall one, treating focus as a checklist instead of mindset. If you're racing through the letters to get to answer, you're missing the point. The power is not in the steps, it is in the pause that each step creates. Okay. Pitfall two, using framework alone. Focus is a great as a private practice, but it becomes transformative when you use it with the team. Walk your team through the 5 letters on your next big decision as a group meeting and watch the conversation change. Watch them start to think differently, right? So, with any mindful practice, remember the basic. I keep going back to the basic I shared almost in 2025. 3 simple things. Take a pause. And how do you do it? You take deep breath. 4 deep breath. What is happening? Your fight and flight amygdala is being disconnected and you're engaging the prefrontal cortex to make the decision. So, step one is to focus, become present in that moment. Now, once you become present in the moment and you have engaged your prefrontal cortex, you become an observer. Observe what you smell, feel, touch, hear, see. Observe of how that is being accepted by you. Not reacting to it, just becoming an observer of how each of the senses that you're observing is getting into you. And then you name it. You name for what it truly is: blissful, scared, hurting, happy. Pick one emotion that really connects to that moment, and then take another 3 breaths and move on with your work. See, that's the beauty that I've always said about this whole mindful practice, that you don't have to go and stretch your body in 200 different ways for 2 hours a day. No, you don't have to go to Himalayas and you don't have to go to a retreat you just need to get present by 4 deep breaths. Anyway, here's a challenge before next Tuesday. Pick one decision. One decision you have been avoiding, not a small one, the one that's been sitting in the back of your head for 2 weeks, where every time you think about it, you find something else to look at, right? Run focus framework on it, the full 5 letters in writing, right? Get clear on what real decision you're trying to make, observe the bias, write down one bias you might be carrying into this decision, right? Write the single most value this decision most clearly touches, and ask, is what I am about to do aligned with that value? Then, to use insights mindfully, you have to think about how will you communicate this decision in one sentence. What's the headline you would want your team to remember? Sustain ethical actions. Pick one checkpoint 30 days from now, and what will you look at to know better decisions actually worked, right? And don't just make this tool for yourself. Make this tool something that can become a language in your conversation, right? Teach your team, walk them through this whole thing, and notice how it feels to make decision from clarity instead of from pressure. Now, that feeling is what mindful leadership is trying to give you back, right? Now, if this episode resonated and you're thinking, saying, I want to lead with clarity, but I don't fully understand my own decision making patterns yet, that's exactly why we have the purpose factor assessment. 10 minutes, a few honest questions, and you walk away with a clear picture of whether your leadership wiring creates clarity naturally, or where it might be creating noise without you realizing it. Because the first data set every leader needs to read is themselves. And just to clarify, purpose factor assessment is not just another assessment. It is a psychological studies based, neuroscience studies based, that has been used by Air Force, that has been used by multiple corporations, and now we opened up to the general people, right? It identifies 4 archetypes. Again, I get that smile every time. 4 archetypes are standard just to create a connection of who you are as an individual when we are born, as someone who have grown and you experience, as someone who have the defense mechanism to protect yourselves, right? But the more important thing about this assessment is that for each of the archetypes, it shows you what frustrates you and what fulfills you. What frustrates you and what fulfills you. And then you get that plan to go from A to B. And the way we define purpose is what is the best of what we have to give others. So 10 minutes, an honest question, and you will walk away with a clear picture of whether your leadership writing creates clarity naturally and whether it might be creating noise without you realizing it. Again, so let's make that first data set ourselves, right? DM me the words, stay focused on LinkedIn, and I'll send you the link. So here's where I want to leave you today. You don't need more dashboards. You don't need more tools. You don't need a better note taking system or a sharper analytics platform or that new AI agent your cousin keeps telling you about. No, you need one steady practice, 5 letters that turns the noise down and turns your judgment up. Find your clarity, observe your bias, connect your data to your values, use your insights with care, sustain the action that follows. Stay focused from data to decisions and lead with clarity and purpose. I'll see you next week. This is Singh on the Transformation Network, and you're listening to Mindful Leadership Transforming Life. Lead meaningfully. Bye.
Thank you for watching Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives. With me, your host, Singh. We are honored to have you join us on this journey to explore the transformative power of mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and authentic leadership. Tune in every week on transformationtalkradio.com at noon Pacific on Tuesdays, where we will continue to explore how mindful leadership can create a ripple effect of positive changes in your life and lives of those you influence. This show is dedicated to helping you lead with purpose, presence, and passion. Whether you're navigating the complexities of business, building stronger connection with your team, or striving to make a meaningful impact in the world around you. To learn more about the show, access additional resources, or dive deeper, visit singhpowerupcoach.com. Remember, leadership isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are. Let's continue to transform lives together, one mindful moment at a time. See you next week.